Some cities, even though they're separated by sea and culture, just seem to have this deep, shared connection. Take Liverpool and Marseille. One's a gritty English port, the other is sun-drenched French metropolis. They seem like polar opposites, right? But today, we're going to dive into why these two cities really have one soul. I mean, seriously, what could they possibly have in common? You think of Liverpool, you think of the Beatles, rain, and fierce football pride. You think of Marseille, you think of gorgeous coastlines and that Mediterranean sun. But the link between them is way more profound than you might think. It's a story of empire, of decline, and a fiercely shared culture.
And a great place to start is with a man who has a foot in both camps, striker Djibril Cissé. He's one of those rare players who's worn the iconic jerseys of both Liverpool and Marseille. He's like a human bridge between two of Europe's most passionate football cities. But this personal link, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. The real story runs so much deeper.
To really get the connection, we have to rewind the clock. Because the real story, the one that matters, was forged in the fires of empire and the hard times that followed. This is where their shared DNA was really created. It all comes down to this idea of global legacies. And what that really means is that the past isn't just, in the past. It's a living, breathing thing that actively shapes a city's identity, its politics, and how it sees itself right now. And for Liverpool and Marseille, these legacies, they're absolutely everything. And this chart just lays it all out perfectly. It's like they lived parallel lives. Both were these mighty gateways to empire, Liverpool for Britain, Marseille for France and its colonies. They were powerful, central to trade, but then, when the empires faded and industry changed, both cities fell on hard times, facing huge economic struggles. And that shared experience gave them a similar reputation. They became outsiders, seen as fiercely independent, exceptional places that were totally different from the rest of their countries. This quote from Paul Dunoyer just hits the nail on the head. For years, people have called Liverpool a sunless Marseille. It perfectly captures that feeling that these are rebellious, gritty port cities that have always played by their own set of rules. So let's say you're a city with a tough reputation. You're struggling economically. How do you fight back? How do you change the narrative? Well, for both Liverpool and Marseille, the answer was the same: culture. They decided to use the arts to rebuild their image and hopefully their economies. And our big chance came knocking with the European Capital of Culture program. Liverpool got the title back in 2008, and Marseille followed suit in 2013. But here's the interesting part. While the goal was pretty much the same, their playbooks were surprisingly different. And you can really see the contrast here. For Liverpool, using culture as a big policy tool was kind of new. Their main goal was, honestly, to fix a pretty damaged national reputation. Marseille, on the other hand, had been using culture for city branding for a long, long time. Their goal was bigger. They wanted to reposition the entire region on the world stage. Did it work? Well, a lot of people see 2008 as a real turning point for Liverpool's image. And Marseille's big project definitely boosted tourism and infrastructure. But come on, you can't talk about these two cities without getting to the one thing that truly ignites their passionate souls: football. This is where that competitive spirit really, truly comes alive. All right, so if we look at the numbers, the tale of the tape from their competitive matches, Liverpool has the clear edge, 4 wins to Marseille's 2. But as any football fan will tell you, the stats never, ever tell the whole story. And man, this rivalry has been packed with drama. You got to remember 2004, when a Marseille team, led by Didier Drogba, knocked Liverpool out of the UEFA Cup. Or 2007, when Marseille came to Anfield and pulled off a shock win. But then, just 2 months later, Liverpool got their revenge in the most brutal way, thrashing them 4-0 in their own stadium. Every match just adds another chapter to this awesome cross-channel rivalry. So, from the passion on the pitch to the pride on the streets, it's pretty clear these cities share a kind of soul. But what about the day-to-day stuff? The reality of it all. What does it actually cost to live there? Let's do a little reality check. It's a simple question, right? But the answers, well, they reveal some really surprising things about their economies. Okay, first up, let's talk about the weekly grocery shopping. And right out of the gate, here's a shocker. Your groceries in Liverpool would be over 32% cheaper than in Marseille. That is a huge difference. But hold on. Just as you're thinking Liverpool's the more affordable city, take a look at this. Rent in Liverpool is nearly 28% higher than it is in Marseille. So you get cheaper food, but a much more expensive roof over your head. So we have cheaper groceries, but way higher rent. So which city is actually more affordable when you put it all together? Well, this number right here tells the real story. The local purchasing power is almost 27% higher in Liverpool. That means that even with the higher rent, the average salary goes further, giving people a bit more financial breathing room.
So, after looking at their shared history, their cultural ambitions, their battles on the pitch, and their economic realities, what does it all mean? Where does that leave us? What does the future actually hold for these two kindred spirits?
In the end, their identities are just woven from the same threads. They're both port cities, forever shaped by their global past. They both turn to culture as a way to fight back against decline. And maybe most importantly, they're both home to fiercely proud people who love their cities with a passion that's just unmatched. They're both still figuring out what it means to be a historic global city in our modern world. And that's really the heart of it all, isn't it? For cities like Liverpool and Marseille, a port is so much more than just a place for ships. It's a connection to the entire world, a constant flow of people and ideas. But it's also a place where history weighs heavy, where the legacies of empire and trade and struggle are just impossible to escape. And that leaves us with a big question, not just for Liverpool and Marseille, but for so many cities just like them all over the world. How do you honor a complex, sometimes difficult past, while at the same time building a new, prosperous, and global future? It's the challenge they both share and one they'll keep facing, side by side, from across the sea.